Hey guys, it's Matt. You know, I only do a few videos a year on the Mandela effect. This will be one of them, not because I'm afraid of those that are triggered by it and all the nasty comments, not at all, although I will have an appeal to the triggered in this preface that's coming up soon. And this is going to be a rather serious discussion. I don't like using the word, but I have no other choice. It's not going to break down into nonsense, bad jokes. This is going to be pretty much everything I think it is, what I believe, quote, we know up to this point. What are my personal anchor effects where I'm 100% sure there was, quote, a change? What theories regarding the Mandela effect are absolute horseshit, which have merit, where most people in this community still don't quite understand or are getting it wrong? Now, you know I mention the Mandela effect from time to time, but I rarely do a dedicated video on it. Now, I'm doing that as a result of Cynthia Sue Larson sent me in the mail, and thank you very much, her new book called The Mandela Effect and Its Society. I'm not going to do a book review. I'm not going to tell you to buy it. I'm in no way involved at all. But I got up to page 135, and it says, Exercise. Choose your favorite theory about the Mandela Effect. What do you think might be causing the Mandela Effect? The prior segment was all the potential theories, CERN being one. And this book, I will say this, if you're interested in the Mandela Effect, it's an absolute catalog of every possible tidbit associated with the Mandela Effect, including its history, etc. Again, I don't get no 2 cents per book or nothing. I appreciate her sending it to me. So right here on page 135 in the book, it says, choose your favorite theory. So I'll present, I'm not going to read it, but in a general summary, I'll present each theory. In the book, Cynthia Sue Larson does not give her opinion, at least at this early point, as to the merits of each. She's just saying, hey, here's all the possible theories as to what's causing the Mandela effect. I'll summarize them for you. I'll tell you which ones I think have merit, which are absolute horseshit, if there's anything missing, and we'll start from here. I'm sure this video will evolve into a lot of other places because I haven't talked about it for quite some time. Again, mostly because nothing major has happened. It was incredible when it seemed to hit big time in 2016. It was like a reality shift every week that was almost mind-blowing, especially if it was called an anchor effect. There's little things that pop up here and there, and I would say, boy, I'm relatively sure that that wasn't like that, but nothing like 2016. So until there's a major change, I'm not going to really talk about it much more than I already have. Now for the preface, entitled, A Personal Appeal to the Mandela Effect Triggered. Almost every single time I've made a video where the majority of the video content was about the Mandela effect, you get these sorts of comments. You've fallen for a psyop. You ever hear that one before? You've fallen for a psyop. Okay, so let me get this straight. The old guard here has been with me 10 plus years, many of you, and some of you all the way back to the Texas Shrug channel. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. Can you hear this? I'm not doing that, okay, but I've brought a lot to the table in terms of noticing how this reality works, what our spiritual adversary is up to, things like these things that you call mistakes, truth community. This is about 7 or 8 years ago. This is all on purpose. It's to get our attention. It needs us to create the reality it wants. It needs us, this adversary, to exist. I've brought a few things to the table, just a little bit. So what are the chances that in this case I'm just falling for a psyop? It's unlikely I'm falling for a psyop. I'll keep it on the table. I'm not completely intransigent or pig-headed. If you can't see the Mandela effect, that's okay. We all bring several different things to the table. We all participate in our own way. But at this point, there's like millions of people that see it. Me and these others are not falling for a psyop. We have the same past memories of what existed in the same way. So I'm not going to, present the same old tired woe is me excuses as to why it's not a psyop. I just want the trigger to be open-minded and to stick with this video as long as they can. If not, come back in a few days when I make fun of the news. Now, I have to start with this. It blows my mind how even people that are fully participating in the Mandela Effect community are very interested in the topic. Still, gigantic portions of them don't understand how this thing works, because you see the same sorts of comments over and over again. Here's one that's not an anchor effect, but it's a very strong Mandela effect for Greg and myself. Now, who's Greg? Seals and Croft. Summer breeze makes me feel fine. Seals and Croft to me and Greg. 99%. Not an anchor. I'll tell you about my anchors a little bit later. Someone will leave a comment. Hey, Matt, I'm sure, I know that's wrong. I remember as a kid, I did a book report on seals and crofts, what it is today, plural and plural. I remember, I could show you the book report. That means nothing. In your reality, it always was like that. That doesn't mean it's not a Mandela effect. Don't tell me that you're sure you remember it a certain way. That means you don't know a thing about the Mandela effect. Let me put this in here. Sorry if that was unclear. Seals and crofts exist today. Summer breeze makes me feel, and it's always been that way. That's how the Mandela effect works. It's retroactive, retrocausal. There's no date of change. History other than the residuals, and we'll talk about that strange monkey wrench. It's always been that way, other than a few residuals, newspapers printing it a different way, little things that help us in support of what we, quote, remember. So to Greg and I, it's always with seals and croft. But the point of this segment is those types of comments that say, Matt, I can prove to you it was seals and crofts. I waited outside the stadium in 1984 and I got this autograph and it's right clear as day, seals and crofts. You want me to show it to you? Those people have no idea how the Mandela effect works. I don't care if your signature in 1984 says seals and crofts. I would expect it to match up with what reality is. Their birth certificates. How about that one? Of course it's going to say crofts. That does not mean it's not a Mandela effect. Someone could come to me and say, I'm in the Seals and Crofts family, Matt. People, they kind of were in the closet. They was together, like the captain and Tennille. They was together in San Francisco. That type of, you know what? And they adopted me. It was the first adoption from a you know what couple. I was in the family. You telling me I don't know my own family? Yes. It doesn't matter if you were the first adopted from a gay couple. It doesn't matter. That's how the Mandela effect works. To you, it's always been crofts. I would expect it to have always been crofts because it's retrocausal, back through time, as if what we remember never existed except for those pesky little residuals, which the Mandela effect triggered just right off. Oh, newspaper misprints. These sons of bitches get newspaper misprints, and that justifies that all of reality has changed. I agree. That's a hard Billy Madison debate to take a podium against. Before I look at the theories as Cynthia presents them in the book, and we go one by one through them, I just want to mention this right off the bat, and I've thought about this for years. If this thing will ever be figured out, or we ever get close to a theory as to what is actually happening, I think the basis of the theory to explain the Mandela effect has to be centered around two things. Other things can be brought in, but these are the two dominant variables to solve. Number one, why do so many residual errors still exist, or are allowed to still exist, say, by reality itself? Reality, if you go look at Bernstein Bears, even in most of the patents, it's Bernstein. It's cleaned it up nicely across the board, but there are still several patents and government filings or copyright or whatever that say Bernstein. Of course, too, the Mandela effect triggered there. When somebody simply mistypes, Matt, that's not an excuse that all of reality is shifted. I'd like to seek out your father and have you committed. Could you imagine if a family member is listening to this presentation? Okay, why do so many residual errors exist or are allowed to exist when, quote, reality has done such a good job in millions of different places, syncing everything up to the current or the new reality? If it's so good across 99%, how did it miss the 1%? Of course, because it's a small sample size of what we call errors, that gives the Mandela effect haters all the evidence in the world that it's simply misremembering. On the other side of that Billy Madison podium, we'd say in some Mandela effects, there are so many errors that would have never been made, it actually serves as justification to the merits of the Mandela effect. For example, how many 1,000 times major publications got Interview with the Vampire wrong? It's wrong in Anne Rice's own book. Check out other works from Anne Rice. Interview with a Vampire. She gets it wrong in her own book. Some of these residuals work on our side of the Billy Madison podium, not just for you to say, it's a psyop. It works both ways. If you want to figure out the Mandela effect, though, understanding why so many residuals exist that help us kind of be satisfied that our memories are actually correct, that support what we remember. The number two thing to focus on in terms of forming a theory as to what is going on or the cause of this is something like nobody in the entire Mandela effect community even mentions, or it's brought up very rarely. I brought this into the Mandela effect community roughly 5 years ago. And I thought they would, again, I'm not making constant videos about it. I thought they would run with this and that nobody even talks about it. Still blows my mind. But maybe I'm completely wrong. Well, Matt, get to it then. Out with it, boy. Some of you know what I'm going to say. It almost always, a Mandela effect, quote, change, because there's no other way to talk about it. The new reality is an inferior reality to what existed or what you remember or what you're sure existed if it's an anchor effect. What exists today is not as good. Every time there's a shift, it's an inferior new reality. Now, I'm sure there's a few that can be argued that the new reality is the same or better. I'm not aware of them. For every single one to be an inferior new reality, that to me should be the focus. The absolute major variable that can be used to, if we ever get a chance to or understand or solve what's happening, that is a key. And the Mandela effect community for years just blows it off like it's completely irrelevant, which blows my mind. It's not only the most famous Mandela effects that kind of demonstrate an inferior new reality, they all are inferior to what people remember, and some are neutral. Is Seals and Crofts really that much worse than Seals and Croft? Okay, but nothing is better. That's the whole point. I mean, my gosh, this is a gigantic clue. Use the clue, please, unless you can show me 100 examples where things are better. I don't think that exists. So a quick rundown of the most famous Mandela effects and how it produces an inferior new reality, or easier way to remember it is things got worse. Let's just remember it like that. Things got worse. Anne Rice, interview with a vampire. That is 100% to me anchor effect. I'm not 99% sure. It's 100%. It was interview with a vampire. Not going to do 20 minutes as to why I'm so sure of that. I've talked about it many times in the past. The residual evidence of interview with a vampire is off the charts. I mean, it ranges from URLs in Entertainment Weekly magazine to people doing full paintings, pencil sketches, watercolors of their favorite character in the movie and titling it underneath, Interview with a Vampire. So the superfans that spent a week making a painting don't know the name of their own favorite movie. And I'm not going to keep doing that. You've all heard that horse shit over and over again. Let's move on. Interview with a Vampire is the only way to make that presentation in that book or movie. The is singular. Of course, in the book or movie, there are 40, 50, 60 vampires, different covens, whatever. The is singular. Christians, do you say, as Jesus part of the Trinity, is the God or just a God? One of many gods. Was Zeus the God or a god? No, back in Greek myth, he was a god because there's Apollo and Aphrodite and all the others. So obviously, it just doesn't make any sense. And a writer of that caliber would never make that mistake. We understand these sorts of arguments, Matt. Just move on with your list quickly, you son of a bitch. Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. Life is an eternal concept. It can't be talked about in the past tense in a general sense. Life is hard. If you say life was hard, that might be applicable if you're making a comparison point between point A and point B. What it was like in Ohio in 1902 versus Ohio in 1980. If you're making a comparison point, you can use was. If you're talking about a timeless concept in general, like wise old mother was, the whole point of the scene was wise old Sally Fields. Even herself, her own name is a damn Mandela effect. She was a wise woman. She ain't gonna screw it up. That's the whole point. I'd like to spend 4 or 5 hours talking about this one, my favorite one of all time, but I'm going to keep it under 2 minutes. Jaws. You're going to need a bigger boat. That's inferior new reality. What now exists is worse. It got worse. If you take nothing away from this video, remember, it got worse after the Mandela effect. You're going to need a bigger boat. Matt, you're down to just about a minute. You better hurry up. The ship captain doesn't give one shit about opening up the beaches. You know, you've heard me do this before. It's my favorite topic of all time. He's had the boat 35 or 40 years or whatever. He's not going to get a new boat. He don't care about no beaches or opening or the town. It doesn't make any sense. The person who's invested in the town and opening up the beaches is Roy Schneider, the sheriff, and to a lesser extent, the guy from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't remember his name. Please don't comment. That we're going to need a bigger boat. So, Matt, let me get this straight. You and your Jimmy, you come up. Let me get this straight. Every single time the writer makes a mistake in a movie line and then the director, Steven Spielberg, doesn't catch it, that's another point. He would have the authority to say that doesn't make any sense and make a change on the fly. Every single time there's a mistake in a movie or a book, you crazies and lunatics just latch onto it, that there's been a change to all of reality. See, I think there's a psychological term for what you're doing. I agree with you, Matt. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that Roy Schneider is saying you're going to need a bigger boat. I agree, Matt. That writing was poor, and that's a part of Jaws that should have been fixed on the fly, as you say, by Steven Spielberg. But see, what you're doing is you know that it would be better if he said we. So your brain makes the change as you watch it, and you remember what you think it should be or you want it to be. That's what's happening, Matt, Mike, whatever your name is. There's a psychological explanation for this. In Star Wars, no, I am your father. You think the Luke, and millions of people think the Luke would just sound better. So you insert that, and then that's what you remember. Oh, is that what's happening? I knew I was some sort of demigod who every time there's a little bit of an error in a movie or a presentation, I make the change as to what would be better right on the fly, and I remember what would be better, but that's not actually what happened. So I'm sort of demigod that can just make these changes up. I remember what would be better in every single case. Is that what happened in Moonraker with Jaws and Dolly? So in that scene, they start playing the Tunnel of Love music, and Dolly smiles. And see, I wanted her in that scene to be wearing braces because that's the only way that scene makes any sense. That scene is absolute horse shit without her wearing braces. That scene is one of the worst and dumbest scenes of all time in movie history if she doesn't have braces. So you're some sort of demigods. You just see when you saw the braces because that's what makes sense. You make it make sense on the fly. Y'all some sort of demigods. Then you remember that. Oh my God, that's what it is. I'm going to shut this video down. Shut it down. Delete the channel. I see. And that's what happened with, say, Interview with a Vampire. Because the is singular and there's many vampires. So I just ignore what's there. I make the change on the fly. Now, it's better Interview with a Vampire, so that's the way I remember it. I refuse to acknowledge what's really there. Millions of people all do the same thing. And then millions of those that produce residual evidence, including paintings about the movie, they do it too. They paint Louis or do a watercolor of Louis. They're in love with the Louis vampire and Brad Pitt, and then underneath they write and sign their name. They're all proud of it. Look, Grandma, look what I painted. Louis from Interview with a Vampire. Look what I... And then they put Interview with a Vampire at the bottom of the painting. They just see what they want to see, and they made a change on the fly when they first saw the movie in 1994. Okay, I got it. Now, the inferior new reality isn't just limited to like movie quotes and one letter here and one letter there. Also, that's one of the main things, by the way, of course, that the Mandela effect haters use against us. Oh, it's just, A and the. It's all, an asterisk is out of place, so all of reality changes. You believe that? Somebody put a comma in the wrong place. These little trivial changes, all of reality shifted, these lunatics. Well, Australia moving 1,000 miles north is not an asterisk. The Rock of Gibraltar being in the, quote, for lack of better words, wrong place, that's not the difference between A and the. That's what you call a real thing in a real world. Well, Matt, you son of a bitch, you just sunk yourself there with your real-world examples like the Rock of Gibraltar. I'll even humor you and your band of merry men lunatics. Let's say the Rock of Gibraltar. Oh, sure, it moved. Okay, it moved, Matt, and I believe you. How would that be an inferior new world, Matt? The Rock's just in a different place, right? You cry out, it got worse. How did it get worse, Matt? Answer that. I can answer that, of course. Or the Britney Spears personality would have just taken over this segment if I wasn't prepared to answer it with the Matt personality. And the Joe Rogan personality's been put to sleep during this presentation. The inferior new reality is we see there's stories about the Rock of Gibraltar containing a certain type of monkey that was supposedly left off there by Captain Bligh or Blackbeard or something. Monkeys that should not be on the Rock of Gibraltar, that are indigenous, whatever that means, to the subcontinent of Africa, that were put on the rock. Okay, Matt, there are monkeys on the Rock of Gibraltar, so what's the problem? The problem is there's a whole backstory associated with these monkeys, and it makes no sense, this monkey backstory regarding where the Rock of Gibraltar, I don't know how to say it any different than this, is now. How ridiculous would that sound if a family member is tuning into this? Where the rock is now. The backstory of the monkeys makes no sense. Supposedly dropped off, if I remember correctly, I didn't just spend 2 hours. Was it Blackbeard took these monkeys from the African continent, dropped them off of the Rock of Gibraltar? We remember the Rock of Gibraltar in like the middle of the Mediterranean, right? Or halfway between Spain and Morocco, or whatever country would be just below on the African continent. If the monkeys were put there, they would only have access to the food or whatever's on the rock. And if you see pictures of the rock today, of course, it's attached to Spain. It's part of Spain. And there isn't much on the rock, it doesn't look like, to eat for monkeys. It doesn't look like there's no lush forest. And so these monkeys supposedly are still on the Rock of Gibraltar. If the Rock of Gibraltar is attached to Spain, just part of Spain, why wouldn't they have ventured off the rock to try to look for food, gone a little bit north? So they seem to be still on the rock. That makes sense. If the rock's an island like Gilligan's Island in the middle of nowhere, the monkeys would have ventured north. It doesn't, they're still there. It's like that scene in King Arthur I just watched. They're sloughing at the grass. Marius is not of God. I'm so hungry. I'm sloughing at the grass. I'm so hungry. This monkeys are like overturning rocks to little grubs and stuff. There doesn't look like there's anything to eat there. Why is the monkey population still there? See, the story is still carried through reality, dropped off by Blackbeard or whatever. If the monkeys are stuck on an island, well, they don't have any choice to be sloughing at the grass, to be turning over rocks for grubs. If they're attached to the fertile Europe, wouldn't these monkeys have spread all over Europe? There could be like a monkey infestation from time to time in Madrid and Barcelona. I'm not joking. So to summarize the whole point of me bringing up the Rock of Gibraltar, it is an inferior new reality. It got worse because the backstories around it don't make any sense per where the rock is now. And this could go on and on with it got worse, not with other examples, with the same example, the Rock of Gibraltar. Territorial disputes, even like, I forget the details, it's been a while, years, battles to control. Wasn't the Rock of Gibraltar legally part of the UK? Why would they go out of their way to just try to annex a portion of Spain? It's literally just part of Spain today. A rock on the tip of Spain. Why would you want to fight a battle and risk anything? Why would you want to even risk a quota to get that rock to say, oh, it's part of England? Oh, it doesn't make any sense. If it's an island in the middle of the Med, halfway between continents, then at some point it could have let's say, a strategic use. I'm no military tactician, but an island in the middle makes sense. You're going to fight I'm telling you, I don't remember all the details. They fought a battle. Wasn't the Rock of Gibraltar? Is it still part of the UK? I don't know. But there's territorial disputes. They're going to go out of their way to try to fight for some piece of shit rock on the tip of a wart on the tip of Spain's chin. That backstory, actually, I should have led with that over to monkeys. Okay, let me wrap up this segment. The point of inferior new reality, where what people remember versus what exists today, is it got worse. This could go on for like a 10-hour video. But I got down on my knee and I pretend to pray and I pretend the whole point of the song, you began to pray. I mean, again, some of these might not be Mandela effects for you. Some may be stronger than others. Just throwing out all the ones that to many people are potential Mandela effects. And I pretend to pray. The person went into the church. Well, of course, that makes perfect sense, Matt. It's intended to be a mockery of, okay, stop it. It's either way, and I pretend to pray. It's inferior. These examples, we could just do this hour after hour after hour. Lion and lamb, Isaiah 11:6. Of course, it's the lion shall lay with the lamb. The residuals on that are in the tens of thousands. Paintings, references in movies, sculptures, it's all over the place. Isaiah 11:6, wolf shall dwell with the lamb versus the lion lays with the lamb, by itself proves the Mandela effect. You don't need anything else. 100% proof just from this, with the amount of residuals that never would have existed if this quote did not exist. What exists in every version now, I'll read King James, is just gobbledygook nonsense. Oh, is anybody saying God's word could never be changed? Oh, stop it. I'll talk to you guys in just a minute. This is gobbledygook nonsense. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. What you mean also? What's that wolf? That wolf's trying to lay down with everything. Man, just read the damn thing. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them. What a bunch of nonsense. It's not blasphemy. It's been changed from what once was. Guys, let me tell you a little side story or personal side story about Isaiah 11:6. Maybe in 2017, I forget the year, I tried to put the pieces together to preserve it. And I want to say like working with others, but maybe traded a few comments with people and maybe a few emails. So I'm not putting this the right way, and it wasn't like some big collaborative effort, but we kind of had it preserved. And I remember very clearly writing down the elements. The lion shall lay with the lamb. Something about a bear shall eat the grass, and an asp, or the child is in there as well. The point is, guys, there's only one book where I would have written this down, where I would have preserved it. And I have been through that book many times in the last 3 or 4 years looking for, quote, the original Isaiah 11:6. And it is not there. Now, I don't want to go where you think I'm going. Well, Matt, you're already there. I'm not saying it just completely disappeared. I just can't say that. I can't say that. But it is very strange to me. I do believe wholeheartedly that residuals do disappear from this reality over time. Don't know exactly how the reality accomplishes that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I can't say that it was definitely in the book and it disappeared. But I remember, here are the elements, being very confident, exchanging emails or comments with others, that this is the original Isaiah 11:6. The lion shall lay with the lamb, the bear, and I'm not going to be able to put the pieces together here, of course not. And I'm the least qualified person in the world to dabble in the Bible like this. But to me, it was preserved. And there's no other place I would have written this down, I don't think. And it's not there. Take what you want. Matt, what are the chances you think it just disappeared? I can't. I don't know. I can't go there. But would it surprise me if it just completely disappeared from the book? No, it would not surprise me at all. So at this point, I'll finally get to the different theories from Cynthia's book. I just wanted to stress that these, to me, are the two key factors in analyzing the Mandela effect. Everybody talks about the residual evidence, but just, again, one last time, incredibly, almost nobody talks about it got worse, the new reality. And it just blows my mind how the Mandela effect community has ignored that. So in the book here, Cynthia has to be fair, give equal weight, and some of these are, we're just going to skip through them so quickly. The first one, and this has to be presented, explanations and theories to explain the Mandela effect. Number one, I understand why she has to present this. False memories and confabulation. Horseshit, it's not false memories. I'm not going to try to make a Billy Madison argument. It's not worth talking about. Let's move on to the next one. Number two, simulation theory. This is literally the Matrix from more of a technological standpoint. Again, she's not giving weight to any of these. It's just an objective overview of all the possible theories. Here, that fraud and villain Nick Bostrom, remember, wrote a paper 12 years ago that we're living in some sort of simulation. And Geordie Rose is mentioned in his creepy comments about this quantum snow cone machine reaching into other worlds, and Elon Musk's quote about the chances of we living in base reality is 1 in billions. That genius, he pulled out his 3x5 card, remember, and read, and things said at MIT, and okay, that has to be kept on the table. Let me go through these somewhat objectively the way she presents them before I give my opinion on each, other than the first one, the false memories. That's ridiculous. The third theory here as to the possible cause of the Mandela effect is CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. There's no reason to talk about this. We all know all the different things that have been slung around blaming CERN for the Mandela effect. Let's move on to the next one. What's listed next here is called quantum phenomena, and I need to point out that these theories, of course, just blend into each other. Of course, if this section here on quantum phenomena and how observing quantum particles, they can shift, they can become one thing and move into another thing, they can almost teleport. I mean, you could say that, well, something or certain experiments at CERN is causing the quantum phenomena. So these theories, at the end of the day, all blend into each other. The next theory here is called quantum immortality. Quantum immortality. I'm going to read you the whole paragraph here. The idea that none of us can actually die, and perhaps we might already be dead. Matt talking again quickly. That seems like two completely different things, but actually it's not. That we cannot actually die, and perhaps we're already dead. Again, I understand where this is going, kind of like that's kind of the same thing, even though it seems like two completely different things. This notion originated as a thought experiment originally called quantum suicide, first published by Hans Moravec in 1987 and independently developed by Bruno Marchal in 1988. Physicist Max Tegmark explored the idea further in 1998, attempting to distinguish between the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics and the Hugh Everett many worlds interpretation via variation of the Schrödinger's cat experiment. From the cat's point of view, the theory of quantum immortality refers to the subjective experience of surviving quantum suicide, regardless of the odds. Guys, Cynthia's book is much, much easier to read than that. That is not a good sample of how this book reads. To finish, it says, the quantum immortality theory took on new legs with people observing the Mandela effect, with people wondering if we might have died in some alternate reality or, a mass extinction event, etc. And we'll come back to these after they're all summarized. Next is time travelers, which has to be in the list of theories, but is, to me, absolute horseshit. It absolutely has as much merit as false remembering. The next one is converging timelines and converging reality bubbles. The first sentence says, there is a theory that at some point in time, such as in the year 2012, realities converged or merged. The next theory is called nonlinear orthogonal time shifts. And orthogonal means right angles. Cynthia, if you're listening to this, I don't really understand how this can relate to the Mandela effect. The first part talks about how ancient cultures or indigenous populations, many of which believe there is no such thing as linear time. Then there are quotes and references to Philip K. Dick about, say, The Man in the High Castle, how an alternate reality where Germany or Japan, say, quote, won the Second World War could exist and an individual could shift into that timeline. So in a way, it seems similar to converging timelines, but this one is more about, it seems like personal shifts into another timeline. But this is a little unclear here. The next theory here is also a little hard to understand. It's called spiritual apocalypse. Apocalypse meaning a revelation or an unveiling. To me, this relates to more of a YouTube channel called C-3PO's Golden Calf, and the Mandela effect actually being a message. Some would say a message from God, or at least a wake-up tool. It's there intentionally, in some sense, to get people's attention, to wake them up, to have them see things in a different way. Spiritual apocalypse. The next theory listed out here is called Schumann resonance of the Earth, and there's a catalog detail of how the changes or fluctuations in the Schumann resonance has corresponded with, say, an outbreak of Mandela effects. But to me, that would just be another symptom. There's no explanation here as to how the Schumann resonance in any way can cause the Mandela effect. Without that, it just has to be just another symptom or something that could alert you that more Mandela effects could be coming, or a correlation between them, which may exist, but not an explanation as to how the Mandela effect is actually happening. The last one listed is called Great Awakening, the Great Awakening, or the evolution of consciousness, which to me, as it reads, is very similar to spiritual apocalypse or a spiritual unveiling. So I'm going to tie them together. Basically, I think they should be combined into one. Okay, let's throw out the horseshit theories that we can move through very, very quickly. And we'll do that first. Again, Cynthia's presenting an objective overview. She lists false memory. She doesn't believe it's false memory. She asked to list all the possible theories. There might be a few she missed, and we'll look to your comments. There might be something that I wanted to add. I'm not sure exactly which one of my theories closely corresponds to which one here just yet. Okay, we talked about it being false remembering and false memories, horseshit, no chance of that. Let's move on to the next one that could be thrown out very quickly, time travel. I mean, come on, man. People have been citing time travelers for as long as the Mandela effect has existed. This is ridiculous. If somebody went back in time and made a change, then everything would reflect that change. There wouldn't be, say, 1,000 pieces of residual evidence talking about interview with a vampire. And you can't go back and do time travel and move Australia, unless you're Superman. You can't move Australia 1,000 miles north. Time travel, ridiculous. Throw it out. Okay, guys, as we move through the credibility or the legitimacy of the theories that remain, to get through them, I'm going to apply my two biggest standards or variables or characteristics that any Mandela effect theory must explain these two most important things to me that I mentioned earlier. One, how the tens of thousands of residuals are allowed to exist. Lion and the Lamb, thousands of residuals, interview with a vampire. Any theory has to explain the two most important things to me. The residuals, the residual errors that still exist, reflecting the old reality, and my theory of it's not as good, the new reality. It made it worse. It's getting worse. Can the theories hold up to that? That's how I'm going to apply the standards going forward. And a lot of them won't hold up to one or both. It's like, again, if that didn't come out right, I'm judging these theories. I'm going to judge the Miss America contest. It's going to be based on beauty and charm and charisma. Now, I don't know if you can say that anymore. I don't know if that can be applied to a beauty pageant legally in 2024, but let's just assume it's 1960. Can I judge Miss America without using beauty and charm and charisma? No, I can't even come close to judging without those two. The fact that there are residuals all over the place that aren't changed, and this new reality is worse than the old, that is looks and charisma to the Miss America pageant to me. So let's go back to the first one that has some merit, where again we've thrown out misremembering and thrown out time travel. Simulation theory. We're literally in the Matrix, some form of AI. We stepped into a false reality, a digital world. Elon Musk's, this isn't even close to base reality. It's a simulation inside of a simulation. Let's see how well this holds up to my two standards. And again, for the purpose of this theory, just think of it as the Matrix, or think of it as some sort of artificial computer or human system, an AI of sorts, generating reality. Whether you're actually walking through it or you're in a pod, it doesn't matter. Just think of it like that. Artificial or technological simulation. Okay, so if it's the Matrix and there's a glitch in the Matrix that would cause a change in reality, why would the Matrix try to wake people up that they're in a Matrix? If it's artificial in terms of technological, it would want to stay consistent. We have to have some common sense and standards we agree upon. If there's a change, it would have to be some sort of glitch. Why would the AI try to change reality? So we have to stick to the basic. We have to have an agreed upon set of parameters for this theory. All right. So my big one is everything that comes that's a change, it's worse now. Why would the AI make it worse in hundreds of different areas? And every time we do this, I'll give you another example that proves what I'm saying, that every new, quote, change or everything anybody calls a Mandela effect is worse. Curious George doesn't have a tail. Well, it's not the hardest monkey to draw. Really, anybody with a third or fourth grader with some drawing practice and tips could kind of draw Curious George. It's very easy just to draw in that tail. Is anybody going to say to save ink, to save money on ink? No. Why wouldn't nobody would draw a monkey without a tail? Nobody. So what is new, or what exists today, for lack of language to talk about it properly, is inferior across the board. Why would an AI system do that? Why? If it glitched, why wouldn't it be a true glitch? We're watching Jaws, Roy Schneider, the damn shark comes up when he's chumming and he comes in and he says, "You're going to boat." Maybe he just flips around on the ground like he's having convulsions. Why does it have to be so clean and crisp? Just something different. You're going to need a bigger boat. Wouldn't a glitch, when something glitches, is it like a flash of light, or things would look strange, or the lighting might change, or whatever it may be. Australia would appear the gigantic shape of a penis, for example. Why is it? It's if it's a glitch, well, it doesn't look like a glitch, right? If it's an AI or technological simulation, it's easier for the technological simulation to not do anything different. It's easier on its resources, its capacity to make no changes. It'd be harder to make the changes and try to have the change, of course, is also accepted by most people as always being the case. So you factor in the fact that real spiritual beings are kind of going along with it. And Matt, I could tell you, I saw it in 1979. It's always been, you're going to need a bigger boat. And see, they're right. They would be right. It has always been to them. If we're in a technological simulation or AI of sorts, how does it move back through time so consistently? Doesn't right now the fact that we're in a matrix to explain the Mandela effect isn't holding water. It does do better that an AI is managing all this, or technology is managing all this. It does do better holding up to the second part of the two pieces I'm going to apply to each theory, which is the ridiculous amount of residual evidence that exists for Interview with a Vampire, whatever it may be. Makes sense that, okay, there's a change made, and it's all a simulation. So it goes and makes millions of changes to books that exist and things people have written and movie reviews. It just makes changes across the board to its simulation, and because it's a technology of some sorts, it's not perfect. And as it does its barium sweep, that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, as the sweep goes over the Enterprise to clean it up from bacteria or whatever would be stuck in the carpet of the Enterprise, as it does its barium sweep across reality, it misses a lot of things. Thus, the residuals pop up, and then it goes back and changes them later. Like when Greg looks at The Wizard of Oz, and he's like, what are these people talking about? There's no butterfly net, and there's no gun with the scarecrow. He looks away and he looks back. Then it's there. It goes back and it makes changes in some sense retroactively. Another place where the simulation theory or the Matrix movie itself, it doesn't hold up, is it magically changes the memories of real spiritual beings. People saying, I'm sure when I saw it as a kid, Matt, it was that. Well, okay, and they're right. It was that because all of reality reflects that going back through time in retrocausal fashion. No artificial system magically would be able to change the memory of a real consciousness. That doesn't. So in many ways, the simulation theory, it just doesn't hold up that we're in a matrix to explain the Mandela effect. Out of 10, it's better than misremembering and time travel. That doesn't even get a 1 out of 10. That's absolute horse shit. Simulation theory, we're in the matrix, relating. Matt, you just glitched. Your Joe Rogan just tried to come out. It did. I give it a 3 out of 10. Not very good. Next on the list of theories is scientists at CERN. And nobody that points at CERN or blames CERN, and even as it's listed here, nobody knows exactly how that could change the fundamental nature of reality. Of course, and no, we would never know that. People are basically saying from a distance, when you play with Mother Nature, there's going to be consequences. They're not saying exactly how the particle collider could exactly make a change to a movie or change the location of Australia or change how you walk through reality. They're just saying in a very general sense, and I'm okay with this. I agree. If you dabble in this area, there could be consequences. That scene from the Event Horizon with the uncool fat Lawrence Fishburne pops into my mind. And Stark, the first in command, says, you harnessed the power of a singularity. You harnessed a black hole as the engine that drives this ship. You play with Mother Nature like this and you didn't think there'd be consequences? Same with CERN. You mess around with the fundamental fabric of this universe at the quantum level and you didn't think there'd be consequences? So Matt, well, how does that cause, when you say the Mandela effects cause a reality that is now worse, or it got worse, how would that, we don't know. But I can't take it off the table because they are messing. We're not meant to mess with the fundamental nature of reality. We're not meant to mess around like this. And yeah, you put a quantum singularity like in the movie as your engine, it could take you into hell. Maybe that's a truth drop. You mess with this particle colliders and all this stuff at the quantum level, there could be a price to pay for that sort of thing. Next here on the list of theories is quantum phenomena, but we see the overlap between these theories just gets greater and greater. I mean, these theories they can't even stand alone. Did the sick experiments at CERN cause the quantum phenomena? But nevertheless, I have to apply my same two standards. Okay, whatever quantum phenomena, wherever it came from, CERN or anywhere else, well, okay, if there's a change to reality, then why did there tens of thousands of residuals about Lion and the Lamb? Why didn't it change that? It doesn't. Okay, I mean, again, we're not really getting anywhere. So far, none of these explain what's most important to me. The tens of thousands of residuals for some, and the fact that everything gets worse, or it got worse, you're going to need. Life was like. These are not explaining the two most important things to me. Next was quantum immortality. None of us can actually die. Matt, that tree, you say it potentially fell on you around 2012, and it really should have killed you, and you just kind of woke up and nothing happened. The tree was suspended a few feet above you, or about 6 feet above, and Matt, you did die and then just shifted immediately into another reality. This quantum immortality is very similar to my tree story. Now, I'm not, again, if I have to push all my roulette chips on a number, I'm not going to say for sure that tree killed me. Well, that would be ridiculous. But there's something very strange about what happened to me with that tree. Something very strange. And this quantum immortality that, we've all died many times. We just poof into another reality that seems the same. I'll always be interested in this topic for various reasons, but mostly because I want to say I kind of experienced it, but I didn't. I just don't, this is hard to talk about, of course. Okay, if that's the case, we've died many times, we can't die, whatever it may be, rinse and repeat like Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow, same thing. Let me apply my two standards again. Well, the new reality I woke up in, why doesn't Forrest Gump's mother just say life is like a box of chocolates? Why did that part change in the new reality? And if I died or was killed by that tree and I woke up in this reality, and in this reality, Matt, it's like a hell realm. It's a little bit lower. Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll keep that on the table. Everything's a little worse. Absolutely. That was noticed a bit after my tree incident. Things aren't as good here in this place if this quantum immortality has any merit or legs. But if that's the case, okay, this is a hell realm. It's a little bit lower. There's thousands more. You go down and down and down like that Netflix show where that damn tray of food keeps being lowered to each floor or whatever. The poor people at the bottom get nothing but bones. That's an interesting movie. I forget what it's called. Please don't comment. Please don't comment and waste a comment on what the movie's called. Please don't. Okay. It's a lower hell realm. That's why things are a little bit worse and all the Mandela effects. That kind of coincides with one of my most important, symptoms that I notice. But the other part, it doesn't really hold up. Lion and the Lamb, Isaiah 11:6, why tens of thousands of residuals exist or had existed. Reality slowly cleans up the residuals. They slowly go away. The fact that it's quantum immortality, we woke up fine in this new reality. That tree killed you, Matt, and in this reality, it's lower in towards hell. It's a hell realm. You're one step lower on that food, where that food tray comes down in that Netflix show. Please don't comment with the name of the movie. Please don't waste the but it doesn't hold up in terms of the number of residuals. Fine. In this reality, the wolf lays with the lamb. It's closer towards a hell realm. The lion and the lamb is superior. That was before the tree killed your son of a bitch ass. In this reality, it's the wolf, Matt. Fine. Then in this whole reality, it's always been the wolf. All the residuals popping up, the evidence of the lion wouldn't exist if this quantum immortality thing is correct. So this succeeds at the first point about it's getting worse. but it fails on the residual aspect. And by this notion, Matt, if you do more chainsawing and another tree gets you, the next time you wake up, Isaiah 6 will say, Roseanne Barr lays down with the lamb. You don't want that. Imagine how bad it'll get, that poor damn lamb and what's laying with it if we go down more hell realms. The next theory is converging timelines, converging realities, converging reality bubbles. This theory does okay on my 2 standards or metrics, but fails in a lot of other important areas. So let me do the 2 standards first. We'll talk about this a little bit different or a little bit more at length regarding those other important areas. Okay, converging timelines. So we have this timeline here. There's a timeline identical somewhere else where everything just sucks a little worse. In that timeline, Roy Schneider says, you're going to need a bigger boat. In some way, that found itself into this timeline. So there's no tail with the Curious George in that one. It found its way into this one. Well, where'd the Curious George with the tail go? Into that one? Well, if it's converging, Matt, like the theory says, yeah, you son of a bitch. Okay, maybe. So, but you'd have to believe there's a reality out there just almost exactly the same, but everything's just a little bit worse. You want to talk about the lower hell realms, the food tray going down floor? Maybe. I think there's some Buddhist theory. I'm no expert on this, and I've read it in the past. And again, I shouldn't even be saying it. I'm such not an expert. Where you can go down into a little bit lower towards the hell realms, or a little bit higher. Maybe the one just below this is just a little bit worse. You can believe. Imagine how bad Chuck Schumer is in the one below us. Imagine how bad Nancy Pelosi is in the one below that. So just a little bit worse, and they're merging together. Okay, it's doing okay here. Not loving it. The reality below us is everything's a little worse. You're going to need a bigger boat. Okay, possible. How about all the residuals? Well, yeah, if it doesn't do bad here either, but it fails in other areas. It doesn't do bad here either. If it's merging, then elements of both are going to present. All these residuals you talk about, Matt, it's a mix. Okay, in terms of my 2 standards, it does a little bit better than the others, maybe a 5 out of 10. But in these other realities, I would need to exist, right? This is where I have a little bit of an issue. So the reality below is a little bit worse. It says Looney Tunes, Tunes, which makes no sense. It's not about music. It's about a cartoon, Toon. I mean, it gets worse. Now we see Tunes. And then someone says, well, it's merry melodies. Well, right, that's even more. The people use that as a reason why Tunes is correct. That's even more of a reason why Toon is correct and Tunes isn't correct. Because you're already mentioning the music side. You're going to mention it again with tunes? It's a cartoon. Okay, Matt, it doesn't make any sense to call it Looney Tunes. It has 5% to do with the music and 95% to do with the cartoon visual. Okay, that hell realm, again, we're on the converging realities, converging bubbles theory. That somehow made its way, merged with ours. But there would have to be a Matt in that realm just below, and another Matt in the one below that, right? And another Matt in the one below that, right? If there is the Looney Tunes, or let's just say the Jaws is playing to a theater of nobody, there's nobody if there's have to be people, and if it's a reality that's almost just like ours but just a little bit worse, then there would have to be a version of Matt that's just like this Matt but a little bit worse, if you can imagine that. And I'm just going in a way, well, your guru who you bow down to, Matt Toney, said that there's simultaneous incarnations. There's multiple versions of higher self, all in different realities. Well, that could explain it potentially. Okay, this one is the best yet. I have to keep thinking on it, but let's not spend hours on just this. The converging timelines, reality bubbles one does a 5 or 6 out of 10. It has some issues. The biggest problem is I don't like the whole scientific or Stephen Hawking notion of every time you make a decision, another reality breaks off. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. And if there's like 5 to 7 accepted scientific theories / principles of how the entire universe works, one of the 5, 6, or 7 accepted possibilities in every single university lecture hall in the world, this branch off of worlds theory. Hold on, guys, I'm going to make a new reality right now. I'm going to make Now that's just me with my tongue. It's not. I'm going to make another new reality. Every time you do something, another whole universe branches off. This is again one of the main potential principles of how everything works. I think it's ridiculous. Every time I'm going to put my hand under my armpit now. I'm not making a whole new universe. Ridiculous. Now the next one is similar, nonlinear orthogonal time shifts. Again, more about a personal time shift. The Philip K. Dick saying, I experienced these worlds. For a second I shifted. I experienced a world where Japan and Germany won, as Philip K. Dick says, experienced the situation where they won World War II. And he said Philip K. Dick said, a lot of these realms, trust me, this one, if you don't complain too much about this one, a lot of these are true hell realms you don't want to go. And somehow he experienced them in his famous speech in Metz, France. So this is similar, no reason to apply the metrics and do this all over again. It's just like more of a personal time shift, personal shifting versus the whole reality bubbles somehow merging together. Now, these last two I'm going to combine into one. I think they should be one. The spiritual apocalypse, which means, unveiling, and the other one is called the Great Awakening. Now, whether it's a message from God or a message from the divine, like C-3PO's Golden Calf video channel says, everything is an interpretation, is a message. Either way, the very basic sense of combining these two, it's done intentionally to get our attention, to get the attention of a real spiritual being. That's if you merge these two theories. Where we agree at the very root level is, if you buy this theory, which I've combined spiritual apocalypse into the Great Awakening, if you buy this one, something is happening intentionally to get your attention, to get the attention of a real spiritual being. Now, of course, with this one, we're going to disagree where it's coming from. Is it coming from the Christian God? Is it coming from your higher self, your spiritual self, working with others that built these reality systems before it put a little part of itself in here? We're never going to agree on that, so let's just let that go. All that matters is the one, we just back up to where we agree. We're backing up, now we're on the same plane. It's all being done. Here we go again with Wayne's diagram, and why this one may have the most merit. All of this being done for us. So let's see how this one holds up to my first metric. Every Mandela effect I've ever noticed has a worse new reality. It gets worse. Does that get my attention? You better believe it gets my attention. This one's holding up pretty well here. It's incredible to me, one last time, how it has not gotten the attention of pretty much the entire rest of the Mandela effect community. But whatever. The entire Mandela effect community overlooks the biggest hint and clue that exists. Again, if people are talking about it, I'm not aware of it, and so far I haven't come across it in the book. But okay, the fact that we have memories of what on paper here never existed, and the fact that there are in many cases thousands of residuals that match up with our memory, residuals that have nothing in common with the current reality and how it's always been, per its retrocausality, does that get my attention? The spiritual awakening, the Great Awakening, the spiritual apocalypse it was called. Does that get my attention? Yes, it absolutely, once again, gets my attention. I'm not loving these as Matt, now we've solved it, not even close. But these are doing much better in terms of my two standards and metrics than any of the others. This one also does much better in a theory of mine you've heard before called reality is a truck and tractor pull. It's designed, all Wayne's diagram, all this for us, it is designed to wake us up, or for those that are ready. It is designed to get our attention. It is designed so at least a small percentage of us, a small minority, go through a spiritual apocalypse or an awakening or an improving of ourselves. 30 seconds or less on the truck and tractor pull for those that don't remember. The weight doesn't get heavier, but per the physics of it, as it slides forward towards the truck or towards the tractor trying to pull it, per the physics of it, it seems like it's getting heavier, harder to pull. And then eventually the tractor or the truck just stops in the mud. This is the opposite. The reality itself, we've noticed, gets more and more insane, more bizarre, more breakdowns, more things that don't make sense, more things that defy common sense, more irregularities. It's the truck and tractor pull but in the opposite way. It's just getting more ridiculous and more insane, where it's at the point now where it's gotten so insane, we've woken up to it. We've woken up to the fact that this can't be a real world. There's no way you could count 1,000 things a day that just would never happen in a real world. How do these people stay quiet? How did this get pulled off? How come this is still unexplained? It's so bad that we can't believe that our friends and family are still going along with it. They're resetting to it in some way. The resetting to the new reality by those on what I call the ship of fools, like a download frequency or radio station, is that none of these theories does a good job how real beings are reset to it, unless any of these theories talk about that they're background characters here, or NPCs, or things that, if it's not the same spiritual entity that you are, we could see how it more easily would reset to a, quote, new reality that changes or resets. But if other people here, and most people around us, we believe many of which are the same spiritual entity that we are, will they reset to it? They go along with it like it's always has been. It's completely normal that Dolly has no braces. Or if it's not normal, they might say, Matt, yeah, that this scene really is a little strange and doesn't work. But it's a lot easier, Matt, to say that like the writer or the director made a little bit of an error, maybe didn't do as good as they should have, Matt, except, and what you say, I'm not going to go where you go into the loony bin, all of reality has changed. They'll have a way as the palace guard to just explain it away, of course. So from the truck and tractor pull perspective, the reality will continue to break down to where maybe it reaches its limit. It can't get more ridiculous. It can't get more absurd. And then whoever has woken up to it at this point will maybe be done with these material planes and not come back, not have to do it again, whatever your belief system is. But it might be close. The truth community screams out, there's going to be some giant reset and a tidal wave's going to come and everything. No, it's like, the reset's probably already happened. The reset is reality reaches a limit where it can't get any more ridiculous, where the reset is nobody else can wake up. No matter, you could literally, again, Joe Biden or a president could get on a broom and fly around on a Nimbus 2000 like Harry Potter. And people reset to whatever the craziness is, and that would seem normal to people. Nothing should surprise us at this point. So this combined last theory of spiritual apocalypse / Great Awakening is the best, without a doubt, of all the others. It addresses my biggest issues, the Wayne's drawing. All of reality is here for us. And if there are creeps and minions and part of it's hijacked and bad actors, well, they're role players. They're here for us. I believe that. If everything is here for us, then why wouldn't the glitches be here for us? It's just one more thing to notice. We notice the strange behavior of how people bow down to the same political themes. And we notice all these different strange things with reality, how there can be a gigantic, per the news, horrific mall event or school event, and how those being interviewed all act the same strange way, and there's never a tear shed. We notice thousands and tens of thousands of problems and issues with this reality. Well, why is this any different? This is just another problem and issue. It's like potentially a reality that's desperately crying out to wake up whoever potentially can wake up to it. If you get back into its weeds and you want to investigate that mall event or that school event a little bit closer, that's exactly what it wants. The idea is to say this whole reality is, okay, I've woken up to it. I don't need any more craziness. I don't need to examine any more of it. I need to then worry about myself. I don't have much time left. What do I have to get done here? If you ask someone in the truth research community hey, list out all the things in this world that don't make any sense, defy logic, or doesn't sit right with you, or you think would have been noticed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but somehow they get away with it now. And the person would say, how many weeks do I have to make my list? Well, why is this any different? Now, of course, it's more, you would say, mystical or supernatural, of course. It's not as simple as some automaton catastrophe thespian giving some interview, Johnson & Johnson, no more tears. Okay, maybe it's more mystical and supernatural, but if you back up far enough, couldn't you say it's still part of a reality trying to cry out to a little group of us that are able to see it as the ridiculous clown show it's become? In the end of the day, it might be no different than anything else. Again, Wayne's diagram is all around the little figure in the pen in the spotlight is a series of complexity. I don't even know how he drew it. I mean, there's looks like a million different little things and all the complexity. Well, the Mandela effect is one little part. I mean, what's really the difference? And if it's a fake reality designed for us to move us along, then, well, it can do anything it wants. The creator of it is probably rather powerful, whatever your belief system or set may be. I doubt if you can create the whole reality, but Matt, see that there's going to be glitches in the movie Jaws, and I mean, come on, I mean it could potentially be that simple, just another way to get our attention, to wake us up. I'm not going to go as far as some YouTube channels that look at try to break down some symbolism in some message from God. I'm not going to ever go there. I think that's just too much detail. Looking at, and there's so many different Mandela effects. How could the message, I mean, just speak English if it wants to give it, I mean, but it is a message in its whole, in the entirety, it's a message. The message is, it gets us right back to where we normally go, that this isn't very real. And if you give it a lot of credence and you stress and worry over it and you get too close to it, you shouldn't, because it's not very real. It's just another thing that says this isn't very real. And if it's not very real, you stop stressing and giving it the emotion, the illusion that it wants. The role players want their energy. A dog does tricks for treats. It doesn't see the big picture. It will always want its loose energy, etc. But when it's just another way to see that it's not very real, and you don't have a lot of time left. Matt doesn't have a lot of time left to do the worry about yourself activities. What we're supposed to do here in the little time we have left for a spiritual self. Thanks for listening.